We've got a charged atmosphere for two rivals in the East Division. It's the Moonshine Throwdown. Marshall and Western Kentucky.
Intercepted by Key, and Key has one man to beat. A nice cut move. Edwards can't get him. Key takes it all the way. A pick six for Devin Key.
Here comes Talik Keaton to the sideline midfield. He's to the 40, gets a block, and here's goal! Touchdown, Marshall!
So please join me in welcoming the 21st head coach in WKU football history, Tyson Helton.
And Marshall's going to finish the year 9-4 and champions of the 2018 Gasparilla Bowl, the sixth consecutive bowl win for the Marshall Thundering Herd.
It has been a long time since we've come to the airwaves. I mean, last we spoke, I think we had just gotten done wrapping up the Gasparilla Bowl, and we were trying to make some time to get linked up with Steven so that we could relive the First Responders Bowl, and I'm not sure we were ever even able to do that, and now here we are, what seems like a complete lifetime later, and a lot has changed just in the past few weeks alone, not to mention in the sports world since we last recorded. I mean, you know, Kobe Bryant passing away seems like forever since we last recorded, and we hadn't been on since that happened. And, I mean, 2020 just keeps throwing the haymakers, and we all keep taking them on the chin. And, of course, unless you've been really living under a rock or just have been secluded or have quarantined yourself and didn't know what was going on in the world, well, now you're quarantined for a whole nother reason, perhaps. And the coronavirus has put shockwaves through the sports world, and man, you can really tell that American society just relies on sports heavily on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis just to kind of not really get through, but it's a major something to do for a lot of people. So Tracy and I are here. We're going to talk, what we're just going to see where it goes. Of course, we're going to try to keep it to Marshall sports and Western Kentucky sports. But, you know, there are just a lot of things that are surrounding with this coronavirus that are, like I said, directly affecting that. So we've got a lot to talk about that. And, you know, we'll kind of see, maybe we'll talk about what we would like 2020 to look like from here on out. I don't really know. We just, you know, we need a break from being stuck in the house. And I'm sure some of you folks are sick of looking at your phone and checking all your social media apps every 5 seconds to see that nothing new is going on. And, you know, you're all looking for something new to stream on Netflix or Hulu or Prime Video or whatever the heck you use. And maybe this is a little something different that we can do. So, Trace, the Conference USA basketball tournament was open and closed really quickly. I don't have much to say about that other than the fact that kudos to Marshall for being a preseason number 11 team in the conference and entering the Conference USA tournament at number 6, I think it was. And they picked up a win in that first game. And, of course, that was the last game they would play because the tournament was canceled the very next day. Western Kentucky was a preseason favorite, and they really did not disappoint despite losing Charles Bassey for a huge chunk of the season. These kids really came together in a way that we hadn't seen in a while. I mean, they just came back to win games multiple times after being down by huge deficits late in games. So they were a really special team to watch. I'm not sure that you can just automatically give North Texas the Conference USA Tournament championship and say Western had no shot, because they were a good team, man. And North Texas, you know, they got a lot of, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Easy wins, some schedule inflating wins, if you want to call it that. But, you know, ultimately tournament seeding comes down to conference wins, if I'm not mistaken. So they did win their fair share of games in conference as well. But Look, I mean, congratulations to the 8 teams on an 8-way tie for the Conference USA Tournament Championship. I mean, what else you going to say? I mean, 8 teams ended the season with a win, and that normally doesn't happen. So, Stephen, and when Stephen and Trace get a little bit of time, they're going to come together and talk a little bit more in depth about basketball. But just real quick, Trace, you can talk about some basketball and how the season went for you. And of course, I want you and Stephen to get into more in depth of that when you have your time together. But we got to talk about it a little bit now. And then there's some issues stemming from that, not just basketball, but spring sports in general that I want to talk about as well. So what about Herd basketball? What did you like about it? What would you have liked to seen improved other than maybe the win-loss record? Who surprised you? Who disappointed you a little bit? And, maybe kind of where do we go from here? So what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, for like you said, a preseason number 11 pick in the conference. I mean, I think you got to be pretty happy with 6th place. I mean, that was the exact same seed they were last year when they had John Elmore and C.J. Burks, and this year they didn't have those 2 guys, plus another couple of guys, Rondell Watson, Christian Thieneman, guys like that weren't there this year. Still managed to finish 6th place in the conference. I mean, that's pretty good considering they were expected. A lot of people were expecting them to just be completely bad this year. And I wasn't one of those people. I thought that there was enough talent still there to where they could be decent. And I would say they were in between decent, pretty good, somewhere around there. I mean, they really were competitive within Conference USA. I mean, if you just look at their record and their resume against those Pod 1 teams, it's pretty daggone impressive. North Texas, the conference champions, they lost to them by 3 points. I was at that game. They could have easily won that game. Western Kentucky, they blew a 17-point lead or whatever it was at home and lost to them by 4. And then they lost to them in Bowling Green in a competitive game and a close one. And then looking at Charlotte, they lost to Charlotte by 2 points. They beat FIU and they beat Louisiana Tech. So, they had a fair amount of success against those Pod 1 upper echelon teams. So I don't think Marshall's far away. I think even in a rebuilding year, they were extremely competitive. I mean, they had some losses here and there that just weren't very good. They lost to UAB twice, lost to FAU, and, had a couple stinkers. But, I mean, you kind of expected that because, I mean, there's literally not a senior on the roster. The entire team is back next year, barring any transfers or, Cam Brooks Harris is entering the transfer portal or something. Not transfer portal, but he's transferring. Football, thinking football there, but no, I mean
it's still the same thing. It's still the portal in basketball too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess I was on the right track there. but no, I mean I'm very optimistic about next season. I think they could have a really good year. I mean, a couple new guys are getting. I mean, they're pretty well documented. If you're a Marshall fan, a couple in-state guys and all that, and they got a lot of players back. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. This year, I mean, at this point, you can just, even in rebuilding years, you still want to be competitive, and Marshall was competitive this year. And I think that's a testament to the program that Dan D'Antoni has built. I found the stat out the other day that Marshall has now had a winning record in 5 straight basketball seasons. And the last time that they had such feat was from 1983 to 1988. So we're talking 35 years or so that they haven't had. And that's a testament to what Dan D'Antoni has built. Even in a rebuilding year, when they lose their number 1 all-time scorer and God knows how many other categories John Elmore had, and then another top 5 all-time scorer in C.J. Burks, they still managed to keep afloat and be very competitive within Conference USA. And they were very close, honestly, to being a Pod 1 team. So that shows that he's really got a good program building, and it's going to keep building. I'm really pleased with how he has built. I mean, of course, we all would have liked to have seen, 25 wins and a conference title, but it's just not. I mean, you can't expect that when you lose 2 players of that caliber. I mean, those are 2 of the top 5, arguably 2 of the top 5 Marshall basketball players of all time. So it's hard to replace guys like that. People just think it's just automatically they're just going to be replaceable. That's not how it works. I mean, look what happened with Marshall football. They've lost Rakeem Cato, and they still haven't found his replacement. So, I mean, it's not easy. So, I think there's no doubt they're going to be back in the next year or 2. They're going to be back in that conference title contention. I really think that. I think that's how good that they have become as a program. So, and Dan D'Antoni is a great talent. He's great at developing talent. So I really think the next couple of years could be really good.
Yeah, you look at the early part of the season, and it's a different Marshall team than what finished the season. And I think a big part of that was the fact that once Andrew Taylor got eligible and could get on the floor, that was honestly a missing element. They needed that type of ball handler. Yes. Jared West, for all that Jared West is, he's a defender first. He's not what I would consider to be he's a good distributor of the ball, but he's not as good as Taylor, and that's a fair statement. I believe even he would say that. But Taylor definitely made a difference. I mean, he makes the all-freshman team this year. Of course, Kinsey, known as a dunker early on in his career, has really molded his game. He's become a better all-around player and lands on what I think was the Conference USA second team this year. You saw the resurgence after a rough first half of the season, really, of Jansen Williams. He came on super strong at the end of the year, turned his season around. Really good for him. A lot of stick-to-itiveness and moxie from Jansen Williams. Michael Byers had a really good season at the end of the year. I remember hearing those guys' names a lot towards the latter third to the latter quarter of the season. And of course, Jared West is what Jared West is. I mean, he's all conference defense. I mean, he's just a good player. He's a great leader. And then you had some young guys that really, amped their game up. Iran Bennett was a bright spot this year after the injury and after, losing some of that weight and becoming a little bit more nimble. I wish that referees would be a little bit more kind to him. It's not fair to just call a foul because he's kind of bigger than everybody else.
I've said that. Yeah, real quick. I've said that so many times at games. I'm like, they literally called a foul on him just because he's bigger than the other guy. And it's like, those aren't even fouls. Like, you got to cut my man some slack here.
Well, I mean, we saw that, not that I'm comparing the two, from forever, but that's the way they used to do Shaq when Shaq was playing. He's just bigger than everybody else. And, when a dude that big bumps into a dude that's my size, well, the guy my size goes flying a little bit. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a foul, where if two guys my size bump into one another, they don't really – one doesn't usually go flying. So but there's a lot to build on there. And Marshall has secured commitments from I think it's the top two players in the state, outside of Huntington Prep guys, which, yes, they're in-state players, but they're really not like generally from West Virginia. They're not West Virginia kids. Huntington Prep's a basketball factory, so they come from all over, and it's just a different animal, though. So from the two kids that are in-state products, Marshall's got them both. And it's a lot of talent coming in, both of them coming from down near Logan County, and that ought to put Marshall in a good position for several years to come. So a lot to build on, a lot to be happy about. I don't think I can go right now and tell you they're a conference contender next year, but I can't sit here right now and tell you that they won't be either. They're a wild card. I mean, how quickly will they mesh? How well will they gel? I mean, it's just up in the air. But
hey, the year that they won the conference tournament and made the big dance, I mean, they were preseason number 7 that year. So, they way exceeded expectations that year. So, I would say heading into the next season, they'll be somewhere around that preseason 7 or 6 range, probably. Maybe top 5. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's good. I mean, if I'm Dan D'Antoni, I don't want to be preseason 1 or 2.
No,
you have nothing to lose or nothing to gain at that point. You just you are put in the position that you have to go out and prove it. And if you don't win it all, then it's a letdown.
Yep.
So why not be that tier 1, tier 2 teetering team? Which tier are we? And then if you make a run and win the whole darn thing, then all of a sudden, Dan's the coach of the year, and the all conference squad is littered with herd players just because some preseason guys didn't think that they were as good as they actually were. So, but the big, one of the other things that leads into this now, we talked about the conference tournaments getting canceled. We talked about March Madness getting canceled. I mean, everything canceled.
Unbelievable.
And it happened really fast, and things just came to a skidding halt. And as more and more information has come out, I'm on the side of the fence that thinks that, this was kind of the right choice, knowing what I know now versus what I knew then, where I thought, wow, this is a really knee-jerk reaction. But some of the things I know now, and I think that we all know now versus what we knew 10 days ago, we are a little bit more okay with the fact that things were canceled the way they were. So I guess talk with the NCAA now is, will these athletes who had their seasons cut short or canceled, will they extend to them another year of eligibility? And I've seen Steven, we've texted back and forth, and he's got certain feelings about that. And I don't really know where you stand on that, but I'd like to know. I'd like to talk about that. What do you think about getting a year of eligibility back, or basically calling this year a wash? Do you have stipulations on that? Is there, should some sports get it and some not? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Whew, that is an extremely tough question. I mean, I've been thinking about it ever since I've seen that on there, and I really don't know which side I'm on yet, because on one side it's like, for the seniors and stuff of these players, or at least the college basketball, for the seniors and stuff, like maybe this might have been their only chance to make the NCAA tournament, and they're not going to make it. So, like, it would be cool if they could get another year. But even if they get another year, it's not guaranteed they're going to make it again. So, right. But then on the other side, it's like, can you really give a player a whole nother year of eligibility just because he missed out on 2 weeks? I mean, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't know which. I'm kind of right in the middle there, because I can see it both ways. I try to generally do that with things. Like, I'm not usually one of those. It's like, okay, well, it's only this, and this is the only there is. I'm kind of always one of those people that are kind of in the middle stuff, and that's kind of where I am with this, because I mean, it's hard to say, and like with all the other sports too, that just makes it even more confusing, because like, I mean, the spring sports are getting canceled now. That makes a whole lot more sense to have another year for those people, because I mean, that's literally the whole season in some cases. So I mean, that makes a little more sense, I guess, or a little more logical. I mean, the basketball thing, yeah, like it's like I said, I mean, it makes sense in the terms of like, you missed out on the tournament because it got canceled, not because of your own doing. So I mean, I don't know. It's honestly hard to say. I don't know what the NCAA are, but I don't know if they're actually doing that or not, or if it's just talks or whatever. But like, for me, that would be a hard decision to make. If I was the NCAA and whoever's involved, I wouldn't really know how to make it, honestly.
Well, I have a similar stance. Let me put it that way. I don't think that the basketball players should necessarily get a year back, because I'm with you. I mean, you're talking about potentially just one more game, and then you would have been eliminated. Yeah. And, for teams, for blue blood teams, college basketball blue blood teams, making the tournament, that's not even a question, because half of 2/3, if not almost all of the ACC is going to make the tournament. You know what I mean? Like, yep. Tons of teams from the Big 10 and the Big 12 and they're going to make the tournament. So you're talking about a handful of players from a handful of teams that may have had anywhere between 1 to maybe like 7 games max left, and they played 30, already. And it's just frustrating, like, I get it. You feel gypped and you feel cheated, but at the same time, what about kids that are high school seniors right now? They're not going to get their year back. I mean, nope. They're going to miss out their senior year of baseball or whatever, volleyball, whatever. And that might be the last time they play ever. So it's not like, oh, well, you can come back and, play again. No, that might be the last time ever. They don't even get to walk across the stage for their high school graduation. You don't get to do that again. Now, you might try to have something months later, but actually, how many people are going to show up to that? Because a lot of kids will be gearing up and getting ready to go to college, and that they've already kind of moved past that. So for teams, baseball teams and tennis or whatever else that plays in the spring that just got started or hadn't even got started, they should get all the schools should have a scholarship waiver for just the 1 year so that those seniors could come back if they chose to and play. And it shouldn't be an issue. But as far as basketball goes, I just can't say yeah. I mean, I would like to. It's a nice, heartwarming thing to do, but you got to play your whole season. I mean, it's just a bummer that things out of our control caused it to end prematurely.
Yeah. It just sucks, especially for a couple of teams in particular. I mean, not just two teams, but I think of a couple of teams that it really sucks for. One of them's Dayton. Yes. I think Dayton, honestly, I would have absolutely picked them in the Final Four. No doubt about it. I think Dayton is as good as anybody in the country. Obi Toppin's the best player in the country, probably. He's going to be one of the top draft picks in the NBA. And then another team I don't know if I've ever seen this team good in any sport. Well, maybe not any sport, but it's been a long time. Rutgers. Yeah. Rutgers was going to make the NCAA tournament by most counts. I think everybody pretty much had them in there. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen Rutgers basketball good or not. So, it's rare for a team like that to be in contention for the tournament. Now they might not ever get back. I mean, You never know. I mean, they haven't been good in football since freaking Greg Schiano was the coach.
The first time around, right?
The first time around, they had Ray Rice. I mean, that's the last time they were good in football. So, I mean, teams like that, it just really sucks for them because I mean, okay, put it this way. What if this was 2 years ago in Marshall when they made it, it got canceled?
I was waiting for you to go there, yeah.
I would have freaking rioted. Yeah. No doubt about it. So, I understand. I guarantee you those fans of those teams are just really upset with it. But, I mean, it's like you said, even though it sucks and everybody agrees it sucks, it's the right decision. I mean, you can't have 15, 20,000 people there spreading that virus around. If one or two people have it, it could go thousands of different ways. I mean, you just can't have that. It's bad on your conscience. It's just not the right. It's not safe. I mean, they made the safe decision, even though it's unpopular. Nobody likes it. It's the right decision.
Yeah. And you really have nothing to gain, other than having people be able to see the games and like normal, only bad things could happen. So the best case scenario is that it's a normal year with normal enjoyment, normal fans and all that kind of stuff. And every other scenario is something really bad happens because you hold these events, with mass gatherings and things. And it's so weird that we are now just 10 to 14, maybe 3 weeks into this whole thing. And, it's wild. It's something new every day. And of course, one of those new things was Conference USA announced that all spring football practices were canceled. All of spring ball is canceled, and we can't just sit here and not talk about what that's going to have, what effects that are going to have. I mean, yes, at least it's all teams in the conference and not just like a handful of teams that aren't allowed to practice. So everybody's playing from behind the same 8 ball now, but what does that mean? And we talked about that before, and you said, well, obviously it's not good. Well, yes, we know that, but more specifically, I mean, what does that affect as far as the herd goes, in your opinion? There's essentially the same coaching staff in place. There is an assistant or two that is new to the team, but the same coaching staff is essentially in place. A lot of the players are back from the team from a year ago. But, where did we need to see improvement the most, and where was maybe depth an issue, or where was some star power that needed to emerge? What does that mean for positions like that? And you can tell me those positions, and we'll just expound on that. So what does no spring ball mean for the herd, honestly, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, it's really going to potentially create some chemistry team. I mean, those practices and that all that is very valuable to a team. Obviously, I mean, we see it every year. It's the spring game. There's always usually certain players that pop up out of nowhere, and then they end up being pretty big factors for the season. Like last year, I remember Sheldon Evans. He was really good in the spring game, and then he had a really solid backup, year at running back. So usually players like that pop up out of nowhere like that, and we don't get to see that this year. I mean, it's not the receivers. We know the issues there. We know Obialo's gone. We know there's a couple new guys in there and some young guys back. They're not getting a chance to create as much rapport with Isaiah Green now. Obviously Green was inconsistent last year. He's not getting a chance to go out there and try to work on his craft a little bit more in some type of an in-game situation. I mean, even though it's just a scrimmage, it's close to what it would. I mean, sort of like a game. And then, I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, Doc's talking about like the linebacker depth. I think they're not getting a chance to work out those guys. I mean, I think the linebackers are in pretty good shape, honestly. But I mean, you never know what could happen. I mean, if you have an injury too, like last year with Yulee, I mean, you never know what can happen, and you need guys to step up. And a lot of those guys aren't getting a chance to show it because they can't practice, can't do the spring game. So I mean, and then like the kicker situation and stuff, Werwasser's gone. They're trying to work out some guys with that to figure that out. They're not getting a chance. I mean, it's not just one or two positions. The whole team needs this type of time to practice and work on their craft and get better, and they're not getting that chance, and it's unfortunate. But I mean, that's not as big of a deal, I guess, because I mean they still have summer and fall practices and stuff. Hopefully the virus stuff's over by that point, but I mean there's more time. But like this is taking away a pretty good portion, a pretty good chunk of what they do in the off season. So it's kind of crappy, but I mean it's like I said, with the other thing, it's the right decision ultimately. So there you go. I don't know.
Yeah, we know it's definitely the right decision of things to do, but I'm with you. I remember a lot of fans, at least what I see on social media from last year, were thinking, are we actually going to see a true open quarterback competition in the spring this year? And you mentioned Isaiah Green, of course, because he's been a 2-year starter now. So you got to think he's the odds-on favorite to be a 3-year starter. But not only does he not get to work on his craft, but who's going to be QB2 or QB3? Those guys aren't getting to work either. I mean, wide receivers, yeah, we know that there needed to be a lot of emergence of talent there from what we saw last year, a lot more consistency in catching the ball from several players. But the lack of reps, of course, is just the biggest factor.
Yeah.
You can't get your reps, then you don't have an opportunity to get better. Kicker and punter, I'm really not that worried about because you can go by yourself and kick and punt, and stuff like that. But replacing a guy like Justin Rohrwasser, who had a phenomenal season and also, by the way, tore it up at Herd Pro Day. I don't know if you saw those numbers, but they were pretty phenomenal. He only missed one kick, and it was from 66 yards, and it was just slightly wide. So he had the leg, it had the distance. He was just slightly either off to the right or the left. I can't remember, but yeah, several key losses for sure. You like to think that as far as position groups going in, where are they the best? I mean, other than running back, we know that they're set at running back. As long as Brendan Knox is healthy, they're in pretty good shape.
O-line probably.
O-line's got to be a strength as well, despite losing, Levi Brown at center. He's the only one you got to replace along that line. And, I mean, it's a big loss, of course, but they're in pretty good shape. A lot of guys played a lot of downs over the past couple of years, so you think they're pretty good there. Secondary, what we thought was a kind of a weakness last year, does that become more of a strength this year? Because another year of maturity, another year of seasoning, so to speak. But, you can't sit here and tell me that, man, that didn't need to get ironed out a little bit better in the spring. So I wonder what the NCAA will do. Will they say, all right, look, we're going to let you guys combine spring and summer sessions, and you're just going to have one long session? maybe we'll cut 1 week off of it, and you essentially lose 1 week of spring practices, but you're going to get to go, for 4 or 5 straight weeks or whatever leading into the season. Or are they going to do something drastic? I mean, we don't even know if the season's going to be played at this point. We're just speculating. It is entirely feasible with the trajectory of the way things are going in the country that college football could be canceled. We don't know.
That's okay. If that I'm just gonna say it right now. If that happens, I don't know if I can live with myself. This is bad enough right now, but if it gets to that point, I won't even want to leave the bed every day. It will be ultra pure depression.
Well, yeah. So how do we ensure that we have a college football season? Well, stay at home.
Stay freaking at home.
Don't
travel.
Now.
Wash your freaking hands.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you think it's this bunch of BS or, if it's being blown way out of proportion. So what? If you want to have an opportunity to watch your sports as soon as you possibly can, if you want to have the opportunity to try to get life as you know it, as you did know it less than 3 weeks ago, back to normal as soon as you possibly can, then do what you got to do now. Just kind of freaking bite the bullet. And, I don't know about you, Trace, but I'm not really hating this whole thing because I have gotten an absolute ton done around the house. And, Cooper and I have played outside a ton. And this is I'm viewing this less as a punishment and more of a return to more of what it was like when I was a kid. Like when you just went outside and you played. We all didn't have personal electronic devices that we could look at every 2 seconds when our attention span needed a break, from whatever else we were looking at for the previous 2 seconds. So this is kind of refreshing. Now, I don't like the idea of how we got to this point, obviously, but it's been a lot of fun. Cooper and I have played outside a ton. Like the other day, I think was it yesterday or the day before? It was yesterday. I got the slip and slide out for him, man. He was wearing it out in the backyard, and I was sitting in the backyard watching him play, and I was this might sound boring to some people, but I was removing 30-year-old paint from parts of my classic Mustang to refurbish. And I was having a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun. I didn't have to worry about my wife saying, oh, let's go to Target or let's go here or let's go there. Because, she's just in a different frame of mind right now. So
I'm not in quarantine and chill mode yet because I've been working all week, but I do like that it has changed my work hours and my work schedule, and it's changed it up some because I just get sick of doing the same thing over and over. So it's helped in that aspect. But I think eventually they're going to have to just say everybody stay home.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but I too have been at work. Yesterday, the past 2 days were just my days off, but I haven't missed a day of work either. And, I don't really broadcast what I do for a living, but I will say that I have almost 100% certainty that my job will be deemed essential, and I will be probably having to go to work, through the worst of it if we haven't seen the worst of it yet. And it doesn't bother me. I don't work around a lot of people, and I'm rarely within 6 feet of anyone else. Most of the day I am by myself, with no one else around. So I don't really have any fear of getting up and going to work every day. And I tell you what, it is remarkably different driving to work this morning in Tampa. Okay. This is a Friday morning. So it's a basic work day. I was going to work in the teeth of rush hour, and in all of the spots where I would have encountered traffic or it would have been stop and go for a few miles on the interstate. Yes, I didn't have to hit my brakes once between my house and the parking lot of my job. There are a lot less people on the road right now. That's for sure.
Hey, y'all got Tom Brady now, and WrestleMania got canceled from down there. It's a weird time for Tampa.
Okay, so first of all, I'm a Packers fan. Never refer to the Bucs as y'all.
No, I didn't mean it that way. I know the Packers.
I can never cheer for the Buccaneers because way back when it was the NFC North, the Bucs were in that division. I'm sorry, the NFC Central, the Bucs were in that division. I despised the Bucs of John Gruden and Tony Dungy because they were pretty good. So yeah, but yes, I can't believe that Tom Brady is here. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I looked at this earlier. I think Green Bay actually comes to Tampa to play this year. So that'll be one I'll try to go see for sure. I just don't know when it is.
Their ticket prices are going to be a lot higher this year.
Yeah, they are, especially if this is kind of like a one and done farewell tour for Tom Brady, you know. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty big news. There's been a lot of big names moving around the NFL here in the past couple of days. I mean, Todd Gurley just getting flat released and then signed by Atlanta. Melvin Gordon ending up in the same division in Denver. Just a few minutes ago before we got on the air, I saw that Emmanuel Sanders signed with – who did he sign with? He left the Saints.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, the Saints, from San Francisco to the Saints.
Another target for Drew Brees.
No doubt. Didn't they just get somebody else too? The Saints. Who did they get? Malcolm Jenkins, I think is what it was. Safety from Philly. Yeah, and how about Stephon Diggs? He would he leave Minnesota and went to Buffalo? Buffalo's quietly putting together a really scary team up there.
Buffalo's coming. They're coming for the Patriots.
And word on the street is here locally that Jameis Winston may end up in Miami. So whatever, you know. Hey, whatever.
Hey, and the biggest news about Brady going to Tampa Bay is his offensive coordinator is Byron Leftwich. I just think that's so cool. I mean, how many chances people are going to get to say they got to coach Tom Brady in the NFL? Like, that's a huge deal. That could make him as a future head coach in this league for sure.
I think he is anyway. He's been on that trajectory, and I'm not putting this all on Winston, but had Winston not thrown 30 some interceptions last year, and cut that number in half and had 40 touchdowns, how good would Byron have been looking as a play caller then,
Well, he's still I think everybody's still happy with it because, even though Winston threw 100 interceptions, the guy still had a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns, and they were a pretty explosive offense. But, man, I think they were 7-9 last year, I think.
Yeah.
So, now I was just thinking in my head this morning, what if Brady goes out there and throws, let's just say 25 touchdowns, but let's say he cuts down the interceptions a third. Let's say he only throws 10 this year. That team's probably a playoff. They really should have probably been last year if they wouldn't have turned the ball over as much. I think if he can do that, then they'll go from 7 wins to probably 10.
Man, I don't know. See, that's really tough because we just sat here and talked about the Falcons making a good signing with Todd Gurley. And we just talked about several other weapons on the offensive and defensive side that came to New Orleans. I think right now it is not unfair to say that the NFC South is probably the toughest division in football without a down being played. We don't know how those records will go. Carolina's really the only one that, they signed. They gave Cam Newton permission to seek a trade, and they went ahead and signed Teddy Bridgewater. So, Carolina's really no slouch. It's going to hurt, obviously, having to replace Luke Kuechly from surprise retirement, but they're not completely dead in the water, I don't think. But anyway, man, what a turn of event, what an offseason. And we don't even get to get pumped about the NFL draft because that's another thing that was canceled. That should have been happening in about a month from now. So this whole thing has turned the world upside down. I'll tell you, it really has.
There's no precedent for it.
No. Well, not in our lifetimes anyway.
No,
and not in a connected world. This has happened before, but so long ago where the world wasn't connected the way it's connected now. Everything is on demand, basically. So we live in the information age. So anything you want to know, you can pretty much find it pretty much instantly. So, this is just amazing. I don't know if you saw that tweet from Adam Schefter earlier, and I can't remember the exact date. I think it was either 1883 or 1886 or whatever.
I saw it.
Yeah, this is the first day, and since then that none of the 4 major sports have played a game or something like that. This is the first time in that long. That's a long, long time.
Yep.
So, yeah, this is just, we've never seen anything like this. And hopefully we never see anything like this again.
Please no.
But, it could be worse. Let's just keep it in perspective. Could be much worse. Stay at home and we'll have football in the fall.
Yeah.
Do us all a favor. I don't care if you don't believe it. Just stay at home. We all want to watch football.
Or if you think you have any questionable symptoms, get a freaking test done. Yeah. I wish more West Virginians would follow that pattern, considering they didn't even have a confirmed case until a few days ago. Now it's up to like 8 or 9. So it's like, oh wow, you're actually getting confirmed cases because people are getting tested, and that doesn't help. They probably haven't had the simple enough, accessible resources at their, to use either. Because I've heard a lot about that. So.
Yeah, those
whatever.
Testing kits are just not in abundant supply right now. So, that's why that's another good reason to just take care of yourself. Why take a chance? What do you gain from taking a chance? It's the same thing. Why'd you cancel March Madness? Because there's more of an opportunity for something negative to happen than something positive. So why take a chance? I have a small child. I have an 8-year-old son. Why am I going to take an unnecessary risk to risk potentially putting him through hell?
Yep.
So it's just not worth it. I'm having a good time at home. I work on my car when I have free time, when I'm not at work, and where I play with, Cooper. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So I don't know, but it's just a different world we live in. I want to have football. Trace wants to have football. Freaking 90% of the country wants to have football in the fall. And in order to get that, we're going to have to be good little boys and girls right now. Or else we're going to be stuck in timeout for months on end. And you think it's bad now, people fist fighting over toilet paper. You just wait until you're not allowed to leave anywhere or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know. School here in Florida has been canceled for the next 3 weeks, I think. And, I told you before, they have already canceled all testing from kindergarten through 12th grade. So parents have the option, if they want to hold their child back a year, since they're basically not getting any instruction. Of course, they're going to set up online classrooms and things like that to teach, but I don't know. It's a big thing. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. It should be given a proper amount of respect, where no matter what your political belief is or what it isn't. Do you really want to get blindsided with some nasty virus that they really don't know how to cure yet, other than put you on a ventilator and let it ride itself out? I mean, I don't. So I'd rather just be a good boy for a couple weeks and then watch football in the fall.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, my wife and I are celebrating our 10-year anniversary this summer, and we were going to go on a cruise and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, not doing that at all. So we got something pretty cool that we're going to do next week. I threw this idea out there just kind of in passing, and I'll be darned if it didn't catch fire with who it needed to catch fire with. So if you listen to this podcast, you're going to get, some kind of breaking news. Next Thursday evening, hopefully, we're going to bring on Marshall offensive lineman Will Ulmer, and Will is going to take over the show, and he's going to bring a live acoustic concert from wherever he is to you guys. Because, we've seen Will on social media singing and playing guitar and stuff, and he's pretty darn good. So we thought it would be fun to reach out to him and say, hey, man, spring ball's not going on. How come we're not seeing any live music? And he said, well, I'm down for it. And I said, well, we'll put you on the show. We'll turn you loose. We'll have a live stream, and people can tune in and watch you live. We'll keep it up on the YouTube channel so people can watch it if they can't tune in live. And he's like, man, I'm so down for it. Let's do it. So as of right now, we're going to try to do that next Thursday. Well, this coming Thursday, I guess in 6 days. Don't have a specific time yet, but it will be in the evening, probably sometime around 9:00 in the evening. But, Will and I are going to touch base throughout the week, and we're going to iron that out, and we're going to see what he wants to do. And, it's not going to be anything long. I wouldn't count on an hour-long concert. He might throw 4 or 5, maybe half a dozen songs at you, but I just want to give him an opportunity to have an outlet for his music, since he's, like I said, pretty good at it, and football has been taken away from him and everybody else in the country right now. So tune in for that. I think it's going to be fun. I've been looking forward to that since he said he's down to do it. So I don't know what he's going to play. I really don't care what he's going to play. I'm here for it. I want to hear it. I'm going to talk to him about that. I don't want to say this is what's going to happen, but what I'd like for him to do is, however many songs he wants to play, that's fine. If he's going to do cover songs, if he's got originals, it's completely up to him. But what I would really like him to do is a little bit of a storyteller's thing, right? Like, if you're going to sing an original, let's talk about how you came up with the idea. Let's talk about what it means. And, whatever covers you pick, I'd like to hear the story behind why that, sticks with you as one of your go-to songs kind of thing. Because I think people enjoy that. People want to hear, want to get to know the person behind the artistry a little bit. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Trace, if you got anything else you want to say before we get out of here, all I'm going to say is it was really, really good to get behind the microphone. It was really good to do something different. Since, we're kind of cooped up. I've been, like I said, having a lot of fun, but it's really nice to get back to podcasting again. I would like to do it more regularly and, give the people a little bit of a break from their routine of Netflix, iPhone, rinse and repeat. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you could do this evening. It's been a lot of fun. So what do you got for me before we get the heck out of here?
Well, just all this talk about sports is just like kind of a downer. It's like I've been watching reruns of stuff on TV that like games from like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I mean, like, you know how ESPN's been showing like games like that. I mean, earlier this evening there was the 2017 women's Final Four, when Mississippi State beat UConn at the buzzer. I was watching that, and I already knew what happened. I mean, I was really into it. And then, like, I remember like a week or so ago, the XFL had a rerun, and I was watching it.
XFL had a rerun.
It was on Fox Sports 1, yeah. So I was watching it for a little bit. I mean, it's just like, at this point, like, you're just reliant. It's like you don't really realize how reliant you are on sports on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis until it's gone. I mean, it's crazy because like you're so used to seeing it on and always having it on. Even like I do this a lot. Like I'll be in my room a lot, and then like whenever there's a game on, I'll have the game on the TV and I'll have the game muted, and then I'll just have music playing in the background. Like I'll just be playing music. I do that all the time. It's like, even if you're not really that into watching the game, you just want it on. Like you pop up once in a while. You're not getting that right now. So like we need to get this virus under control somewhat. We need to figure something out. People got to be more responsible about it. Don't go out and travel all over the place, and don't go, out of the country. Don't go here, don't go there. Don't risk spreading it, giving it to anybody. Wash your hands 100 times a day if you need to. You just got to play it smart. I mean, there's really all there is to it. I mean, it's kind of like common sense stuff, but like you don't really take into consideration how important it is until there's a pandemic like we got right now. So like, just be smart about it, and then hopefully everything will come back soon.
Be smart in the name of football, for crying out loud.
In the name of almighty football.
Well, I'll give you some relief too as well. Of course, Herd fans, if you are looking for old highlights and old, not really that, I mean, even just this past season, but all the way back for into the 90s, there are a couple YouTube channels that you should check out. Of course, everybody by now knows Dunk Media. Dunk does just about every game every week for football at least. And there's another channel that I'm sure most of you have heard of or seen, and it's called We Heard You, just the letter U. He's got a lot of the old 90s clips, and it might just be a clip. It's not the whole game, but if there's that play that you're like, man, I want to see that, or you'll fall into the YouTube vortex and you'll find yourself watching hours of old herd clips or this, that, and the other. Those few accounts will help you get your herd fix. And for you Western Kentucky fans, there is a brand new YouTube account that has just popped up here within the past week or so. I mean, it might be older than that, but there's been uploads that have been added to it within the last week or so, 2 weeks, and it's full games. And it could be football, it could be basketball. I mean, we're talking 2019 stuff, 2010 stuff. I mean, 1AA football, all that kind of stuff. So you want to go check out the account. Go to YouTube and search Jeff Schreiner, SCHREINER. That's full length games. Like right now, I'm watching the February 27th game, February 27th, 2020, Louisiana Tech at Western Kentucky. I mean, but there are also, here's Western Kentucky at Kentucky football, first win over an SEC team, way back in September 15th of 2012. The full-length game, guys. You can go back and watch the whole thing. So on that note, we're going to get out of here. We'll give you – that was a little something to help you get through in case Netflix isn't working for you and you just need some sports. But, until next week, don't forget we're going to try to get Will Ulmer on here, and he'll live stream a little acoustic concert. That ought to be a lot of fun. It'll be right here on the Moonshine Throwdown Podcast YouTube channel. You do not want to miss it. So until you and Steven get hooked up and can talk a little bit more in depth about football, I'm going to get us out of here. Go Tops. Trace.
Go Herds, and down with the Corona.
We will just put some lime in it. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week. It's the Moonshine Throwdown Podcast.